From BBC Radio Scotland, this is Sports Sound.
Don't be stupid, boys. Turn off Clyde, support your side.
I would like to leave this city. This old town don't smell too pretty, and I can feel the warning signs running around my mind. And when I leave this island, I book myself into a soul asylum, 'cause I can feel the warning signs running around my mind. So here I go, still scratching around in the same old hole. My body feels young, but my mind is very old. So what do you say? You can't give me the dreams that are mine anyway.
Okay, good evening, good afternoon, or good morning, everyone, depending on where you are. And welcome once again to the Half the World Away Celtic podcast. My name is Liam Carrigan, filling in today for your usual host, Kevin, who is otherwise indisposed. Joining me, as always, over in Melbourne, Australia, is Mr. Pat Close. How you doing, Pat?
I'm fine and dandy there, Liam. I should say Kevin. Oh no, that's not Kevin. Anyway, let's get right into it, Kev. Weak as piss, kiddo. Really, come on, seriously. Cleaning his patio. I mean, that's his excuse for not actually doing a podcast, so unbelievable. The things I have to put up with to actually get this thing to go up and running, and, you know. Anyway, weak as. It's all those Coatbridge folk. You wouldn't catch that in Airdrie. We do it with a scrubbing brush. We'd be on our hands and knees scrubbing. None of this pressure washer nonsense that he's using. Anyway, weak as piss. Sadly missed in a not very true case. So anyway, moving on.
Well, thankfully a good bit stronger than piss. We also have joining us today Paul Nelson. How are you, Paul?
Yeah, great. And yourself?
Doing good. Well, thank you.
Good to be back. And I think we all know Kevin's excuse is nonsense, because the word work was used in the same sentence.
I'm actually quite sure on Facebook I saw a picture of him on a boat. So I think a piss poor excuse of me cleaning up the backyard for some non-event isn't going to be happening, and meantime he's on the piss on a boat somewhere. So he gave up all that. He gave up all this to go and actually have fun. I can't believe it. Devastated. So out of all the podcasts we've done, I've got to say, guys, of all the ones we've done in all the years, this has been the hardest one to actually get set up, because you guys are flipping nightmares, I'm telling you. Let's do it at 7:30. No, we'll not do it at 7:30. We'll do it at 10 o'clock. Oh, we'll do it at 10 o'clock. Oh, wait a minute, nobody's here at 10 o'clock. All right, we'll do it at 11 o'clock. Oh, I can't make it at 11 o'clock. All right, do we still want to do it? And then silence. For like 4 hours. Silence. Unbelievable. Just
so much happening at Christmas.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. You got lives and all that sort of thing. But anyway, never mind.
And the saddest thing is I can't even blame it on being pished. But anyway. So, let's see. Well, we got a wee bit of good news the other day there when it came through that one of our former players, Virgil van Dijk, has signed a deal to go to Liverpool. And we're looking at getting somewhere in the region of 7 to 10 million for our sell-on clause. Good bit of business, eh, boys? Pat, what do you think of that?
Yeah. I mean, I'm surprised at the actual value. I mean, we all know how good a player he is, and obviously we saw him playing the hoots for long enough. But I think we all kind of expect him to move on to bigger and better things. But that is ridiculous money. Not that we're arguing about it, because we reap the benefits of that. But my God, that is just silly money. So I saw some I don't know if it's how true it is, but something in Twitter about the top paid players in England, and it was actually more about that Harry Kane guy than about Van Dijk. But Van Dijk was something like number 9, number 8 or number 9. It was something like, I don't know how accurate it was, but my God, that's yeah. I'll happily take the money and run. But my God, 70 odd million. It's a crazy world we live in, I'll tell you.
Well, you know, any Scottish team, be it Celtic or anybody else, remembers that next time an English club comes in and offers them £500,000 for their star player, you know. You say, well, wait a minute. You bought this guy for 13 million, you know.
Well, I mean, Celtic, they did. I personally think a lot of the figures are bandied about, even for Dembele at the moment. I know people keep mentioning the 20, 30 odd million. I don't know. I think the way that Scottish football is portrayed, it doesn't matter how much we think people is worth. It's that what it's portrayed in the world game. I think other teams would see it as still a bit of a risk. You might score 20 goals in the Premier League, but I still think other teams in other countries and other clubs, see that as a risk, taking someone from that league, because although they can produce in Scottish League, it doesn't necessarily mean they can produce it in another so-called stronger league. So I think we're always going to be up against that, and ultimately clubs will pay what they think he's worth. So if they don't think he's worth the risk of spending 30 million on somebody, they won't do it. But so I know we're talking about Van Dijk sort of money, but I guess same stands for Dembele. I've seen a lot of things today saying, well, we should be holding off for 30 million for a guy who's not even starting for us and is a little bit injury prone at the moment. That's kind of my thought on it. Like, if somebody gave you the 18 million or whatever was being banded about with that Brighton shenanigans, but would you take it? Well, I probably would, for somebody you bought for, paid money for 300, 400, 500 grand. Turn that into 18 million after a year or two. It's a good bit of business, but obviously with the normal sell-on clause. But Van Dijk, I mean, he was a class act, and I think he's kind of shown it in England as well. So fair dues to the guy. So we made a fair bit of money. I mean, what was that? What did we sell him for? Was it 13? Did you say 12, 13?
I think it was 13. I believe it was either 12 or 13. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think obviously they take. I think it's always to take that amount off what they sold them for, and then you get 10-15% of what the remainder is. So Paul's the accountant; he can figure it out for us. But yeah, it's a lot of money. We could if they choose to spend it wise. I think the question was, well, are we going to get any to see anything of it? But yeah, it'd be nice to actually get a player or two in for that sort of cash. But I think a lot will depend on Dembele if he does end up going, and on how they would use that. But I think at this stage I'd be happy to hold on to that till summertime and see what's out there in the market. I think
though, if Dembele goes, there's going to be pressure to really spend money though. If they're going to bring in 20 plus million for Dembele, then fans are going to say, well, wait a minute, why was getting stingy but spending 5 or 6 million on a player when we've just brought in a combination of over 30 million for two players,
And that's it. I mean, we should have enough in firepower and quality to at least sort of to win the league this year. But I mean, it's not a given. I mean, bottom line, you should be left with Lee Griffiths and no other real proven striker. I know Edouard's kind of had a few games recently, but he's flattered to see for me. I'm not saying he's not a bad player and would be a good player, but if you wouldn't put all your all the pressure on him to sort of to produce if Lee Griffiths went down an injury. But I think one interesting thing I did see was that I'm not sure who it came from, whether it was from Rodgers or not, but I think it was along the lines of if Dembele does go, they have replacements lined up, which was reassuring, I guess. So hopefully that is the case. But I'd like to keep him as long as we can keep him. But as I said, for somebody who's a little bit injury prone in recent times and isn't even starting, I mean, I think I personally would start him for the Huns game. But I think you roll out your best players, and I still think he's the best striker we have. But that's just me. But yeah, so I guess a lot would depend on that. I mean, the good thing is we've got the winter break coming up, so you'd like to think, if they do have replacements and not so much lined up, but certainly a list of players that they like to approach, then they can move quickly on them during that period.
Aye. So, Paul, what's your take on the whole situation? Do you think Celtic will get to spend a lot of that money, or do you think like Pat's saying, they might hold off to the summer?
Oh, look, I think there will be a little bit spent. I think there'll be at least another player, if not two, will come in January. But I think the Brighton story, and then obviously the massive transfer to Liverpool, 75 million for a defender, which is, I remember when Leo Ferdinand went, I think it was Leeds to United, and people were talking about, the money and all the rest of it for a defender seemed crazy. But I think the thing between those two stories that really gets me, and I think that really annoys me more than anything, is because of the perception of Scottish football. So if you look at Van Dijk, we paid roughly 2 million or 3 million. We sold him for 12 or 13. So there's 10 million there. And then we may get another 10 million because he's went, for 75 million. We created a lot about that guy. It helped him, at a time when clubs were looking at him, but nobody was willing to put 2 or 3 million down. Yet Southampton walk away with 50 million, with 2.5 years or whatever it was. And the same with the likes of Brighton. I mean, Brighton's a holiday resort, and yet they can throw money around. If they bought Dembele for the amount that was quoted, which I think was a non-story from Sky, but the money there, that's more than what Scottish football has collectively to spend, and that's from a team like that to buy the best player. So that kind of puts a lot of stuff into perspective. I think whether we get all that money or we have all that money in the bank, I'm not in favour that because we've got it, it must be spent, and we need to look at it. I think the last year and a half, strategically, we've been very, very sharp in what we've done. We've created something quite special since Brendan Rodgers has been there. The fans and everybody, it's the good old times of kind of going back to 2003 with O'Neill, and everything's going well. We just really have to realise that even with all that money in the bank, we can't pay the wages to get the players that that demand those big transfers. I would rather we continue kind of doing what we do. I think we need a centre half, somebody else there, not much more. I think the key this year is the Europa League. We've got that one game coming up, or the 2 games coming up, and I think if we can beat a top team from Russia, then that really has been an exceptionally successful season for us again, and we'll see where that Europa League goes, because I think between now and August, it's how do we do in the Europa League, and then how do we set ourselves up for, I think, 4 qualifying games for the Champions League, and that to me is more important, that we get that strategy and not just spend money, just because we've got it. I think we spent 3.5 million this time last year. Didn't really see much game time from it.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I think with the Champions League as well, like, it's the way it is structured at the moment. We are not going to. We might occasionally get lucky and get through the last 16, but we're not going to be able to compete consistently at that level unless there's a massive shake-up financially of the whole of Europe, I think.
Yep.
So it's probably, like you say, if we can just get past that team in the Europa League and just try and establish ourselves as a good, solid sort of last 16, maybe last 8 Europa League team. I think that's about the level Celtic should be aiming for right now. To get into the Champions League and have a goal, and then have a decent tilt at the Europa League every year. I think most fans would be happy with that for the time being.
I agree. I think especially 2 years ago, we were looking at struggling. Aberdeen were putting on a bit of pressure. The fans weren't too happy. There was a lot of stuff that just wasn't clicking. And Ronnie was under a lot of pressure. So to think, since then, 2 Champions League campaigns against teams that are spending money that between Manchester City and PSG, the numbers are just frightening, and we'll never ever be at that level, and that's fine, that's reality. But just to be there is such an amazing thing. To hear the anthem, to actually win some points, get credibility, and people like Dembele know that's where you make your mark. And I think he's probably had a frustrating season in so much as that hasn't been his showcase this year. Last year, the City game really brought him to the attention of everybody. And after a week, we destabilised City's run at the start of the season, and Dembele was, suddenly a 20 million plus player in the Scottish League, which, incredible. So I think that's got to be the aim. That's how we recruit great players. That's how players can see that, yes, okay, we will be a stepping stone, but if we treat them right and we give them that opportunity, they'll hang around a little bit longer and still allow our academy players and young boys and young Scottish talent and other players to come and be very successful at Celtic, surrounded by those extra class players that we hopefully can bring in.
Aye,
and I
absolutely.
think that's one of the good things is if Dembele does move. For us, I think the benefit for us would be if he moves to a bigger club, not just a Premier League club, not a Brighton. You're talking something in more in the top half of the competition, not your Bournemouth or in that. I'm not quite Man City sort of level, but maybe not far off. Even Arsenal, West Ham, kind of sort of. I guess teams are kind of well known, because then it gives you that opportunity to say, well, this is what we can do for you. But at the same time, the whole European thing is, I think I don't know. To me, I reckon we've lost a bit of credibility in Europe, just the fact that the way the results have kind of fallen for us. I'm not saying it's necessarily our fault. We're kind of playing I guess a bit above our weight and that sort of thing. But I just reckon the more these kind of bad results happen, and PSG and all these kind of things and Barcelona kind of results, I think that we start to lose that a little bit. Hopefully that's what they try and start planning for again next year, and I think we're probably talking about the same thing this time last year. Get some defenders in that are going to sort of at least allow you to compete, I guess, in Europe, because that's kind of one of the biggest things, the biggest I guess issues we've had is try to we know we're going to be under pressure for big parts of the game, but we just can't sustain it. And again, it's one of the things that's I didn't realise, even listening to the record, I guess, of Brendan Rodgers as a whole in the European Cup, even with Liverpool and Celtic, and it's fairly dismal. Like, I don't know, 2 wins or something in all that period. But my God, I think he's going to have to.
Well, I think because I think again you've got to look at the the number of teams in the Champions League, the pot 1s and 2s. And they're in a different galaxy compared to us. I think whether we're a pot 3 or a 4, it's got to be that closer team. I think the Anderlecht was a bit of a disappointment because of where it could be. But, on the upside, we would normally have expected to have lost over there and won at home. So, swings and roundabouts with that one. I think that was, game 65 or something for some of the... it was 65, a ridiculous number of games that players had already played up until then. But I think for our Champions League thing, I think this year we've played 12 games, including the qualifiers. And qualifiers for us have been difficult over the years, and not just Celtic, but having to play 3 games before the players are even fit, etc. I think we won 5 of the 12 and lost 6. So overall, yes, it's not the top teams, but the pot 1s and 2s are just breaking away financially now. That to get a result like we did when Lennon was the manager against Barcelona, I mean, we'll be remembering that game, I think, for decades, because it was such an upset. And they'll still come. They'll be the odd one, but as I say, I think we just have to look at the teams that are in and around the same situation as Celtic, or maybe a little bit above us, that we can beat. And take it from there. But the Real Madrid, Barcelona's, Bayern Munich's, PSG, I think they've left the building.
Aye, yeah, that's exactly.
I hear what you're saying, but I mean, I think you think a day has gone by where we did. I mean, it's Celtic Park. We have the whole it's a fortress, and players, the teams don't like coming there because they know they're going to be in for a game. I don't think anyone. Anderlecht came and I wouldn't say they swept us off the park, but they were far superior team to the one we played earlier, previously in Belgium. But I just think that there's no real fear factor, I think, going to Celtic Park anymore. I think that's the bit that kind of disappoints me, is that at no stage did it seem as if we were going to cause any sort of big upset with anyone. It's almost like in a roundabout way. I mean, you kind of realise how difficult it is to play against these teams, but at the same time, there was almost like an acceptance that that's just the way it's going to be. But when you think of games in the past, Juventus and Man United and Barcelona and all these sort of teams that came in, and we'd get a point or we'd get a victory against them and cause this massive upset. And those are the things that put you on the map. Those are the things that get you kind of noticed in Europe. And I think it's just a little bit sad that it's come that way, where you get spanked by PSG, and I get they're probably the best team I've seen us play out with that Barcelona team of those years ago. But I find that a little bit sad, really, that there's not an acceptance, but not far off that, if you know what I mean. And I think, like, for us, I think we need to try and get back to that point. And if defence is a bit that's going to, central, I'm not saying it's necessarily just central defence, maybe defence as a whole team, if that's the bit that's going to get us, to be a bit more competitive in Europe, and in worst case scenarios, you can get a draw. You might get pummeled for the game, but if you can keep your structure and keep that sort of defensive strength, I guess, in the team, then that's all well and good. But at the moment, I don't know. I didn't really see much of that in the Champions League as it was, and it kind of be nice to get back to that. I know we're digressing from the topic of Van Dijk, but essentially, if we're going to get spend that money, then you kind of obviously want to try and spend it wisely and get players that are established, can come in and actually play that position right away. Not just kind of projects and stuff like that. I forget the guy's name. The young guy who signed at this time last year. Fuck, that's terrible. I can't remember the guy's name. And he came in, the sort of midfielder. You know the guy I'm talking about?
Wait a minute. I can see his face. I can't remember his name.
Yeah, Sam the same. But he came in as like a £2-4 million. I mean, maybe not necessarily that money up front, but that's if the overall fee.
Kouassi.
Yeah, Iburi Kouassi. Yeah. So if he comes in and and makes a sudden immediate impact. So I mean, even getting that sort of £9 million sort of just say £10 million for the sake of argument, they were getting in from Van Dijk. I mean, what's that going to? Is that going to buy you 2 project players, or is it going to bring you, any players that are just going to go straight into that team? I think we're kind of past that kind of project kind of thing now. I think if we want to do anything in Europe, and that goes for Europa League and Champions League, I think do you spend all the money on one big player that is going to sort of take you to that sort of close at that next level, or do you spend it on 2 kind of £3-4 million players, because I'm not sure how much that gets you these days, or do you go and spend it on someone like a John McGinn and get your 4 or 5 million? I think that we're talking about for him. If he is worth that sort of money, do you go and spend it on him instead? So I mean, I think that's the aim, is like we need to be more competitive in Europe, and that's whether that's being more competitive in a defensive area or midfield, I don't know, but I think we've got Dembele at the moment. I think it's going to be really hard to find another guy like that, but fingers crossed they do have somebody earmarked. But I just think Dembele's an absolute class act personally, but to try and replace him and still compete in that sort of European stage, I guess you're going to have to be spending all that money you're going to get for him on somebody else, pretty much. So.
Aye. I mean, actually, on that point, and that kind of brings me on to what we're going to talk about next. Are we stronger or weaker now than we were at this point last season? I mean, we're on course to win everything in Scotland again. We've had a slightly better result in Europe this year than we did last year so far. And we're still in it. But in the league, certainly, there's been quite a few games this season where we've looked shaky. I mean, that to be honest, when the winning run did finally come to an end, a part of me thought that doing we got off of Hearts was quite overdue, actually, the way we've been playing. What do you guys think? I mean, Paul, what's your take on it? Do you think that we are weaker than last season or stronger?
Definitely stronger. I think mentally, and just the shape of the team, the understanding of players dropping in and out, it's not as disruptive. I definitely think there's vastly improved. And a lot of it, goes to the Invincibles. That is, I think, just so underrated, and it may only really get talked about this year with, depending on how Manchester City, I think, go this year, and how difficult it is really to be having to drag yourself from European defeats to then go and win games domestically and not lose and keep that momentum. Celtic's a team that players have to learn every game's a must win. But that's a very, very hard thing to be doing. And even then, the complacency can step in, can drop in, and players can lose their edge. I just think they've been phenomenal. And as I said, I think they've played. If you've played international games, Celtic players are on 30 odd games or something, nearly 40 games already this season, on the back of last year, not really getting a break. We don't really have that big a squad when you look at it. When you look at the core of guys like Craig Gordon, Scott Brown, that are playing pretty much week in, week out. That's an awful lot of football to be keeping at that level. We've had some young players come in. I do think we're at a much better place. I think the draw we got in the Champions League this year was, it really couldn't have been any harder. With PSG and the money that they just spent at the start of the summer, taking a prize player from Barcelona, that's not going to happen that often. So I think to still be in Europe, when that draw was made, that to me was progress, and we're there. And as I say, I think our season hinges on the Zenit game. I think if we beat them, that'll just give that extra boost, and maybe make this a season that people are not expecting. Really just to go on and keep the European run going. But I definitely think I'm happy with the squad. I think there's a few players there now that have had that extra time to be put into the team slowly, and I think that's bearing fruit. I think we're strong in all the positions, apart from, everybody said at the start of the season, the centre half, and to have a central midfielder playing a lot of key games there at the start of the season showed that was a gap. But look, you can't always get, the window's not open for too long. You can't get all the players that you want on the money that we've got. But hopefully now we can maybe get 2 centre halves, and then that balances the team even better.
I think the other thing you need to consider as well is like when you're the king of the castle, as it were, if everybody wants to dethrone you. And I think pretty much every game that I've seen Celtic play this season in the league, at least, teams have raised their game against us, and there's been that. It's like, we want to be the team that beats the Invincibles, And I actually think now that that's gone, a lot of the pressure's off the team, and they can actually start playing, and they don't have to constantly look over their shoulders, I think that was it really did remind me a lot of, I compared it last season to the AC Milan team of the early 90s that went about 18 months unbeaten. And I remember watching Italian football every Sunday, and like every week Milan were getting shakier and shakier, and finally somebody beat them. And I think it's very much like that with Celtic the last few months, is teams have just been pushing and pushing and pushing, and finally one team got through, But now that that's happened, I think they'll go back and regroup, and I think the team will come out of it stronger. And I do believe we are stronger now than we were at this point last season. I just don't think that league form has perhaps reflected that up to this point. But Pat, what do you think about
that? Yeah, I kind of agree with what you guys are saying. I think the complication for me is I don't think that Rodgers really knows what his strongest team is yet. I think there's a lot of chopping and changing, and I think a lot of it is, you even think of up front as well. You've got Griffiths one week, and then you got Edouard, and then Dembele kind of floating around as well, and and Chams come in, and you got Armstrong come in, and Johnny Hayes and stuff like that as well. I don't think he's kind of settled on what his best kind of team is, and I think that's. I think we'd probably benefit from actually having a stable team. I don't think the central defence has really been helping matters at all, because I think especially the stuff in Europe, whatever, even in the league sort of as well. I think I've made it sort of fairly clear in this podcast. I don't necessarily think Boyata's the answer. I know people are coming out now and talking about it. I think for me, Simunovic is a far better centre half. I don't know whether he's been the scapegoat for sort of that Hearts performance or not. It's good that Ayer's come in and done his thing, so I'm not sure Boyata is the answer for me either. But I think once they get the defence kind of part, whether it's one or two, obviously they've got something in already, whether they get another central defender or two in, I think will be a big factor in how if we do anything sort of even in Europa League. I mean, I think Zenit are a much better team than probably we kind of realise.
Yeah.
You know, it's not the big name. It's not a Juventus. It's not like, you know, one of the big English clubs. It's not one of the big German clubs. But still, they spend a shed load of money. You know, so they're going to have sort of class players and stuff like that we're going to be up against. So I think people are taking them a little bit, I guess, lightly, I suppose. But it'd be absolutely fantastic if we could get a bit of a scalp, sort of in Europe, if we can make some sort of progress. But in terms of being stronger or weaker, I wouldn't say it was necessarily. It's certainly what Paul said. I think mentally they are far stronger now than what they were this time last year. So the fact that they can even grind out results, you know, after that sort of run, and I think actually losing that game against Hearts is, I think in the build up to that, I think everyone acknowledges things were a little bit kind of flat, and they've almost bounced back completely from it. It's almost been like, you know, right, that's the monkey off the back. Let's go and sort of win this league now. And I think even going into the game against the Huns, you know, one we'll talk about a bit later, but if you were going into that game as well with the unbeaten kind of tag as well, I'm not saying they couldn't cope with the pressure, but there's that extra bit of pressure of not letting them be the ones that did it. We'll let their cousins at Edinburgh do it instead. But you know, I mean, I think sort of that that's off our back. We can just go on and start playing the way we normally play. So, but in terms of weaker or stronger, I don't know. I think defensively I don't think we've really progressed defensively. Certainly in midfield, there's been a few developments. You know, Cham coming in and James Forrest sort of playing a lot better, and you know, Johnny Hayes coming in as backup as well. Sadly, Paddy Roberts obviously went out injured, so I think sort of from midfield forward, yeah, I think we're probably a little bit better there. Dembele's a better player now than he was this time last year. Griffiths is still sort of, you know, putting pressure on him, but defensively, I don't know. I think I don't think we've got any better. I mean, Tierney's just doing what Tierney does. Same with sort of right back, but central defence, I think is just, yeah, I think people were calling out for it this time last year. It's just a shame we couldn't get something sort of sorted at that point, and even in the summer, obviously tried to sign the South African guy, and that went sort of a bit sort of tits up, but never mind. So yeah, fingers crossed we get somebody, one or two players in mind. And who's the guy from Dundee? Is it Jack Henry? Sorry, I forgot his first name. I'm not sure he's.
I can't remember exactly.
I'm not sure he's the answer, but whether he comes in as a kind of project player again, I don't know. But I mean, from the game I saw against Dundee the other day, that I think Ayer, he's no better or worse than what Ayer is. So I don't really know what the thought is there, whether that becomes a partnership or whether they want to bring in young players and develop them. It's kind of hard to say.
Aye. So with that in mind, let's just get a round the table here, straight yes or no. Are we going to do the treble again this year? Paul, would you think?
Yeah, I can't see why not. I think you know, on our day we've got guys, you know, Forrest at the moment especially, that on the big games can deliver. I think you know, the honest mistakes that have taken place over the last couple of years, you know, there's always the chances that something goes against you, but I think we have turned up on the big days, semi-finals and finals. I'd certainly like to think so. I can't see anybody stopping the league title. Obviously, cup games, cup finals are cup finals, but I can see back-to-back treble. And you know, I think that a team that's been on such a domestic run, and you know, improved and ran with so much consistency for so long, they thoroughly deserve it. You know, I think we've done exceptionally well, and I think the Scottish Cup final, you know, we certainly should be there on the day.
Aye, Pat, what do you think?
Oh, we certainly could do it. Yeah, I mean, I guess it might come down to what draw you get. You might end up with a tough away game at Easter Road or even Tynecastle, that kind of thing, or even the Ship Pit at Govan. So I guess a bit will depend on that, but like we shouldn't be fearing anybody. We shouldn't fear who we play in whatever particular day. But I think they've already shown that they've got that consistency over the league for that period of time. So whether it's home, whether it's away, yeah, I mean, the resolve of the team at the moment is quite impressive. You know, there's the fact that they never seem to be beaten. You know, and they've obviously clawed back a couple of close ones in recent times, and I think we'll take the Hearts game as a bit of just a blip. But
Aye.
yeah.
And Liam, what do you think, Liam?
Well, I think we'll do it again. The only, like you say, the honest mistakes. I mean, the Scottish Cup is the only thing where I think we can potentially slip up.
Yep.
And that's going to take, you know, some really dodgy. It will take a moment of out and out corruption by a referee, because quality wise, there's no one in Scotland can touch us right now. But one-off games coupled with the dodgy refereeing. But the difference is, I think last season showed that for the first time since Martin O'Neill was here, Celtic have shown that they can be good enough to, you know, as Jock Stein would have said, to be good enough that the referee doesn't matter. You know, you should be able to go out and score enough goals that it doesn't matter if they get a penalty or not. You know, and I think we have that now. We have that belief, we have that ability, and we have that confidence. So, we're going to do another treble. You heard it here first. So on that, looking ahead, then, guys, let's get on to the main meat of tonight's show. Our game against the Old Tribute Act over in Govan. What do we think about that? Pat, how many are we going to win by?
Well, I've said on this podcast many times again that I'm not much of a betting man, but I watched them play against. Oh, who was it they played against? Was it Kilmarnock? A Kilmarnock game I think they played, and it was on. I think it was a Saturday night or Sunday night, and I watched a bit of that. And at that point, they were dreadful. They were utterly dreadful. And at that point, went on and put a few dollars on us to win by four more goals, because they were absolutely terrible. And if they put on a similar performance at Celtic Park tomorrow, we will take that off them. They were, oh geez, I don't know if you guys saw it or not. I even saw highlights of it, but Kilmarnock, I mean, at the point, it was actually at one stage where Chris Boyd was outrunning some of their defenders. I kid you not, I was looking at it going, oh my god, can you imagine someone like Sinclair taking on those same players? Or Griffiths or Dembele? It is just, don't get me wrong, they've got elements of a threat, you know. The guy who scored the defender scored the goal already against Motherwell, Danny Wilson, shouldn't forget that one. Nice easy one, good song. Mary's Prayer and all that. Anyway, show my age here. So, I mean, he scored to be fair, it was a cracking goal. So they've got that about them, but I think that's it's kind of a rare thing. I don't think they have that quality. They might hit the odd good strike now and then. They might sneak a goal. You know what I mean? But there is just no way in hell I can see them getting a victory against us, or even a draw. All over the park. And now the fact that if Ryan Jack's out as well, pretty much the mainstay of their midfield, is gone. You know, Doran's guy's gone, and if Ryan Jack's gone as well, they have, and Kenny Miller's injured, and they've got nothing. But there's always this little bit of me that thinks of the Samaras, you know, Samaras Sunday, whatever it was, all those years ago. But we turned up at, you know, Ibrox expecting to get absolutely humped, and we end up winning 2-0. I just can't see that happening for them. I just cannot see how they can get a result against us again. And well, unless it is that, you know, first minute and, you know, Boyata does a silly tackle, gets sent off. You know, that's the only thing I can see is actually not getting a win for that game. It's just some incident or something like that just causes a player to get injured or a player to get sent off or something. But that's it.
So, Paul, do you reckon we should be concerned about the 7-1 record getting broken?
There's certainly a possibility. You know, I think it'll be a comfortable win. I think Murty, the last time he was there, and when he was the interim manager, he actually had a better squad when they salvaged the draw. When, in hindsight, I'm pretty sure they should have just given him the job then, and instead of going through the embarrassment they did for 6 months or so.
But thank God they did, though.
Yeah, certainly kept the gift it kept giving. I mean, some of it was just priceless. But look, I think just from a coaching point of view, he's stayed there. He's clearly done everything that the club are wanting to, and he's been given the chance now. Whether he's there at the end of the season, I doubt. But I think all his luck was given up on that one day as well. I think there was, just the goal they got, the penalty that should have been given at the end, all the rest of it. I think that'll be the only time he'll ever take a point from Celtic Park as manager, interim or full time. So I think it's just a case of early goals, settling the nerves, and just let the game run its course. Because I think, as Pat said, that they're pretty woeful. Their record is whatever it is, 55% of wins are the games that they've got at the moment. Apart from the Aberdeen games recently, it's been really just abysmal. It's certainly not a team that are surprisingly still in between, first and second position because of the results. But look, I think the gap is just too vast. I think, as Chris Sutton said, humping.
Listeners, if you haven't seen that Chris Sutton interview, go and look it up. It was absolutely hilarious. The best bit was was it McCoist that was sitting next to him when he said it? Just the look on his face.
The thing is, I don't think McCoy he couldn't disagree with him. I think that was part of the problem. I think actually he posed the question to McCoy, like, do you disagree? And I think McCoy just laughed and went, "You always got to have hope. You've always got to, something like that." It was real desperation stuff. Like I can't see I reckon if they came out in any way, shape or form and try and take us on in any way, shape or form, we will take 4 or 5 off them. I don't see how they can come and do that. I don't think if they have any sense at all, they will park the bus. They will put 11 men behind the ball, and they will just try and make the defeat, I guess, as small as possible, and maybe just hope they can sneak some sort of goal. But the only real class player they probably had was probably Kenny Miller. He's injured, so he's not playing. They've got nothing in midfield. The defence, I would have said they have some, I guess, some strengths. But after watching what Kilmarnock did to them, I can't see how. There's no way that defence can keep down and prevent someone like either Griffiths or Dembele, whoever's playing sort of the kind of lone striker role. Between him, Forrest, between that and Sinclair, assuming Sinclair plays for Johnny Hayes. Then you take in midfield, you get Cham, who's been scoring a few goals here and there. Lustig, who's scored against them. Boyatis, corners and stuff. I just can't see how they have enough quality and enough just sort of good players that can basically sustain that defensive mindset for a whole game without giving something. They can't. It's impossible. So one thing's for sure, it's not going to end up a nothing each draw. Put it that way.
Definitely not. Definitely not.
The only thing they've got that could do it is if that dodgy decision and an early one at that. I mean, if we are 1-0, 2-0 up and get somebody sent off, I would still have absolute faith that we could comfortably win that game. Again, that only fear is that first 5 minutes of the game somebody slips, somebody gets a direct red card for a studs up kind of thing, and that's it. That's the only way I can see them coming out with anything. But again, there's that little tiny little element of me in the back of my mind that the Samaras game at Ibrox, because I don't know if you recall that time, but we were just going there going, oh no, we are going to get absolutely smashed here. And but I think we had a better quality team than what they have currently, so we'll see.
Aye, I think even our comparatively weaker players are still better than anything they've got. Really, when you look at it player by player, Boyata, for all his flaws, is, I still think, probably better than most of their defence. And so on.
Yep.
But the funny thing is, actually, it's a wee bit of an unhealthy hobby of mine, but I do sometimes lurk around some of these Rangers fan sites on the internet just to see what they're saying. And word of advice, people: if ever you're feeling low in your self-esteem or you're suffering a bit of self-confidence issues, go on follow for a couple of hours and be reminded that you're far, far, far better than they will ever be. Right? If you ever need reminded that what it's like to actually be a normal human being, then you go there. But they don't usually, in the days leading up to a game. I was having a look on there yesterday, and there's usually that false optimism, that kind of bravado that they get about them. The unrealistic kind of, we can do this. It's only Celtic kind of thing, and that's not there now. Their fans are the most broken I've seen them probably since 2012. They just demoralised and they're defeated, and they just the sort of prevailing view on there was like, oh well, if we only lose 2-0, then that's a good result. That's how broken they are right now. So there's that, but I think that same mental weakness is in the Huns team as well, because it's a wee thing, but I was listening to Radio Scotland a couple of weeks ago, and Tom English highlighted it. Now, whatever you think about Tom English, I think he's quite a decent journalist, and he makes some good points now and again. He raised the point that there was an interview with I think it might have been Kenny Miller. It was one of the more senior Rangers players, and he kept referring to the manager as Mertz. He's like, oh yeah, well Mertz says this, and Mertz is going to do this, whatever, and we're all behind Mertz, and it's like, a footballer should not be referring to his manager by a nickname. There's just... Murray seems like a decent enough guy who's been put into a job that he's, completely out his depth with. But he's not got that dressing room behind him at all. Imagine if somebody spoke that casually about Brendan Rodgers, they'd have their jotters the next morning,
I absolutely agree. It's... But that's that. Kenny Miller's pulling a lot of strings there anyway. So
aye,
it's the place is a mess. And he was never going to get the job. They obviously had other plans, and somebody knocked them back, and they had no plan B on the table. So they're in a whole host of mess.
Yeah, and I think
so.
There's a rumoured kind of dressing room split as well. So I was going to say the Scottish, but the British and the Latin kind of players as well. So there's no kind of harmony in the team, and I reckon you'll even see that. You'll see a bit of that if we get some sort of early goal, or they'll just end up fighting amongst themselves. Not fighting, but they'll end up arguing. There'll be fingers getting pointed everywhere. That was your fault. You should have been there, and so there's that part as well. I think one of the things that's in our favour is the fact that they did beat Motherwell. Although I obviously didn't want them to win, but in hindsight, the game had finished, and I was like, well, do you know what? That gives them a glimmer of hope. If Motherwell had spanked them, then I could almost guarantee that they were going to come in and put 11 men behind the ball. But they've probably got that little element of hope, and then the more they've got that, the better it is for us, because if they come out, I said before, if they even attempt to try and match us. From a football perspective, from a physical perspective, from a speed, from a whatever, we'll spank them. We'll absolutely spank them. So I say my money was on a four or more. I think it was $7 or $8 or something that I got for it. Not exactly a massive amount of money, but I'll put a couple of dollars on it. But I just after watching that, I was just I just can't see it. But in fact, one thing I haven't checked is have you had a look at? I know it was meant to be snowing in Glasgow today, but has anyone checked the weather for tomorrow?
No, I haven't actually.
Because that could be an interesting. Well, that could be a factor, but obviously the benefit is we're playing at Celtic Park, and much better surface and all that kind of thing. But it'd be interesting to see what. So I'm going to go and check myself. Just talk amongst yourself.
Right. So as I was saying before, between the deficiencies in the team and the how mentally demoralised both the fans and the players seem to be, I genuinely think this could be like one of the all-time great pumpings we give them. I don't know if it'll be 7-1, but certainly 5 or 6-1 is, or 5 or 6-0 is definitely possible.
See, my issue with that sort of thing is whenever people start predicting that, it never ever happens.
Aye, and I realise I've probably just kind of jinxed it.
Yeah,
so sorry,
that's kind of
I'll apologise right now.
That's kind of a thing. Sometimes it's one of those ones you keep to yourself, and then when it happens, you say, "I knew that was going to happen. I told you it was going to happen that way." So anyway,
it's just I'm always the pessimist, and I'm always trying to find some fragility in us or some strength in them that I should be worried about, and I just cannot see it this time. I can't see anything they've got that's going to threaten us. I cannot see anything. I mean, even dodgy refereeing, I don't think will come into it because we'll beat them by more than one goal. You know, I mean, that'll definitely happen, I think.
See, what I said earlier about them, you know, like an early sending off or something like that for us. But see, in truth, with 10 men, I'd still fancy your chances against them. I still would. You know, and you better believe Brendan Rodgers won't let us rest for a minute. 10 men could one of the ones where 10 men kind of galvanises a team, you know. You see that sometimes. It's like going down to 10 men. Actually, it creates a sense of urgency amongst the rest of the players, and they actually play better as a result. You know. Yeah, there's just too much quality in the team. Yeah.
Aye.
And I'm kind of probably about the same as you. I mean, you kind of look at. I mean, I've never ever really get into. Apart from the game we beat them 5-1. I've got to say the 5-1 game. I was supremely confident going into that game. I just had a feeling that we were going to absolutely spank them. And I've got elements of that now, I've got to say, but there's always that little bit of you goes, I don't know, and you build it up, the whole hype, and then even remember we played them in I think the Scottish Cup a couple of years ago. I think it was the first time we played the Newco, and I think there was this whole thing we're going to absolutely smash them, and I think it was 2-0. I think we won it at Hampden, and it was that whole thing of we are going to absolutely smash them, but then we got a couple of goals up, and it just kind of fizzled out. You know, I mean, nothing.
Funny thing about that game was I remember it was 2-0 and they were all celebrating like they'd won it.
I know, that's what I know, but it just depends. I know it's a much different team we have now, and you hear the stuff about what Rodgers instills on the team is that they're relentless. They're not a team now that sits back and says, you know what, we're only winning 2-0 and there's 20 minutes to go. Let's just get through the last 20 minutes and don't get injured. He doesn't. That's not what he's sort of instilling in that team. He's saying if you're 2-0 up, we want to finish. We want it to be 4, but then the game we want it to be 4 or 5, whatever. And he keeps pushing for that and striving for that, and that's kind of in our favour. I think back in those days, that Hampden game, come to think of it, was remember the whole prediction of if Celtic score 4 goals, there's going to be an invasion and all that stuff. Can you remember that? That was kind of rumoured that if they score 4. Then there's going to be some sort of invasion by the Huns. So, there's maybe something similar for tomorrow. But I wouldn't want to be one of their supporters turning up, put it that way, and having to watch that. That would, I think you're right. They're probably. You've got me in the frame of mind, Liam. I might jump into bed tonight and stick on my phone, going to follow, just see what they're saying, see what their thoughts are, because.
I swear to God, anybody who If you have any sort of confidence issues at all, go on follow, and you realise that there are people in the world far, far, far worse than you, no matter how bad things seem.
Toby Juggs just said in the chat room that the surrounding area underfoot are bad, unsafe for public, as it was at Hamilton a few years back. 20th December got called off amid fan safety. Could happen again, and would probably suit them and the police. Probably not a bad call. That's why I was checking. The weather for tomorrow is... So
it's 7 degrees and rain, it says. So no
BBC said that at midday it's going to be 5 and raining. Well, it's going to be... what would it be? Kind of sunny spells, I guess you'd say. But I think, maybe rain predicted for midday. Early mornings a little bit of rain, then there's more rain for midday with a bit of sunshine mixed in. So, it's not freezing weather, so that's kind of in our favour, I suppose. But you just don't, certainly the way the things are built up, you don't want it to be called off. Plus, we've got a big night planned for tomorrow night at our supporters club. So don't want to miss out on that. Been hanging out for this for ages, so missed the last game for a family function, and anyway. So I'm absolutely hanging out for this one.
I've reached that great milestone in my relationship. My soon-to-be wife is going to watch her first ever Hun scalping tomorrow night, hopefully.
There's the big test.
Aye.
Hear you saying things that's, unspeaking, shocking. Disgrace yourself.
Just get the Rebel songs on, Liam, before it. Get
her
fired up. And you have to explain the history of every single one of the songs. So anyway.
I'm just in this image of her getting into her work in Japanese and just saying to somebody, Chuffy, or laugh. Don't they speak a word of English? We're going to go, Chuffy, or laugh.
There's one for you. Write it down for her and tell her how to, just ask her to pronounce it. Just so I read that. Tell her what you think that says.
Christ. Right. Anyway, so let's get actual score predictions then, guys. Let's hammer it down to a number. So, what's the score going to be, Paul?
I'll go 3-0. I think a clean sheet. I think we've kind of, the 4 goals at Hearts, I think, is getting everybody focused a little bit there. I don't think they've got much of a threat. And, yeah, I think 1 or 2-0 at half-time, 3-0 full-time.
Okay. Pat?
Well, I'm in two minds, I've got to say. One frame of mind says it is going to be an absolute spanking because they are such an arrogant club that they will come out and try and attack us. And we will just, we'll take 4 at least off them. So there's part of me that says 4-0. Again, after watching them against Kilmarnock in a couple of recent games, I cannot see them scoring. It's like Kenny Miller's only bit of class that they had, and he's not playing. So, but then there's part of me that thinks that they're just going to park the bus, and they're going to put 10, 11 men behind the ball, and it's going to be a shit game. It's just going to be a fizzer. It'll end up with 2-0. So that's kind of I don't think the manager has to know. The manager has to know that they can't take us on and play us at our own game. They just can't. But if they are arrogant enough, and there was a little Sky News thing I saw on Twitter, watching a bit earlier, and it was Sky News were going around the streets in Glasgow, and they were just asking fans to give their team talk and stuff like that. Now I don't know if it's just bravado because the cameras are there, but almost every Rangers fan was just saying, we'll go there, we're going to win 3-0, 4-0. It's like, really, you don't really believe that, do you? But
was that this morning?
It was earlier on, I can't remember exactly when it was shown, but yeah, it was just
most of the methadone clinics give out on a Friday, so they might have all been high.
It was. I hope, for our sake, I hope they do come out and attack because we'll spank them, as I said. But there's part of me thinks it's going to be a fizzer. It's going to be as boring as hell. With 2-0, we'll just accept it because the fact that they won't even get across the halfway line. They'll keep 11 men in their own half and just try and stop us winning 3-4-5-0. But so the arrogance of it, I wouldn't be surprised. The Tavernier or those kind of guys and Declan John and they're roaming up and down the park because we will just we'll pretty much take the ball off them and run out the park and score. So anyway, I'm hoping for the 4. I'd even say more than 4, but my gut feel at the moment says they won't take that risk. They'll go for damage limitation and they'll put 11 behind the ball. In which case it'll be 2-0.
Okay.
And yours?
So,
what do you reckon?
Which are you going for though? 4-0 or 2-0?
I say I'll end up going for the 2-0 because they'll just put 11 men behind the ball for 90 minutes.
Okay. Well, when I was thinking about my prediction, it's important that you always give your opponents due respect. It's important that you don't come off as arrogant or condescending or you don't want to insult people. But at the end of the day, they're Sevco, they're shite. 7-0. I genuinely think we are going to utterly take them apart tomorrow. So, 7-0. I'm going for it. To hell with it. 7-0.
Right, Liam, I'm going to check right now. I'm not a betting man, but I do have a bet 365. Let's see what odds they will give you.
All right. This
is Australian odds, obviously. I don't know how it differs in some way, but Kev tried to explain it to me one day. I'm not a betting man, so I don't really understand it. Right, here we go. Bet 365. Right, here it comes up. So you reckon 7-0? Did you say 7-1?
7-0.
7-0, right.
7-0.
I reckon you'd get pretty good odds on that. Let's have a look. Football. I really should know how to work this damn thing, but anyway. Right, here we go. United Kingdom, apparently that's us. Scottish Premiership. Celtic Rangers. correct score. Here we go. Right, correct score. 7-0 is $126. So it's 125 to 1. Right, what's mine's 4-0, I said. That's $15. And what did you say? You said 3, didn't you, Paul?
3, yep.
$8.50. Okay, fair enough.
That's not
yes,
bad at all.
120. Is it worth $1 and 126 to 1? 125 to 1, Liam? 7-0, you reckon?
Well, yes, I'd say get your money on it. Unfortunately, I can't do it because gambling's illegal here. But yeah, I'd have a punt on it if I could. Just a wee feeling I've got.
All right, so I'll put
Might
$1
be
on
the
it.
medication. I don't know, but that's the feeling.
So I'll put $1 on it for you, and if we win it, I'll split it with you. There you go.
All right then. All right.
$126. I'll send you. Actually, you're not getting half. I'll give you $20.
I tell you what. On all seriousness, if you stick a couple of quid on it, it does come in. Give that money to the charity of your choice. Okay.
Okay, that sounds good.
Right. Okay.
That'll
So
be
there we go. Hopefully some good cause will benefit from a good Hun skeleton.
Yep. Sacred Heart. Sacred Heart. We'll get it, Paul. What do you reckon? Sacred Heart Mission in Melbourne would be our supporters club chosen charity. So, but before
Yeah, well, one of many. Yep.
I know we're sort of looking at weighing things up a little bit. So, what do you reckon in terms of? I guess the team. Some of the players are. I guess the positions are kind of filled. Tierney and Craig Gordon and the like. But in terms of the forward, who would you play? Would you play Dembele? Would you play Griffiths? Or would you go absolute out and say we'll put Edouard up there?
I'd start with Griffiths and keep Edouard and Dembele on the bench.
What do you reckon, Paul?
Dembele's good to come on with half an hour to go and just run at them when they're tired.
Who would you start with, Paul?
Dembele and with Griffiths coming on, 55, 60 minutes.
Yeah,
when they might be clinging on to something. And yeah, maybe that will be the other 2 goals. I think Lee Griffiths in these games is great, but Dembele only needs 2 or 3 touches. He's done it in these games so consistently that they see him in the starting 11. That's them. They're already in the back foot. So I'll be interested to see about Rogic. Only because he's only, I think, one of 3 players who played every Champions League game, from what I remember. And I think in the big games, and not for 90 minutes, because I don't think he'll ever be a 90-minute player really. But do you start him in a game like this to really create that space and run at them, or again do you put on the likes of Griffiths and Rogic and really tear a very old and slow defence to a hellish last 35 minutes? But
he's injured at the moment. I think he's out for another month or 2.
Oh, is he?
Yeah,
Oh.
Roger, he's
Well,
out.
I thought he was back. That answers that one then.
Yeah, I think that's why they've been playing sort of McGregor, I think, in that kind of role, or trying to anyway. Which again, that's another one as well. It's like your midfield. I mean, Forrest is probably a certainty start.
Aye.
Probably Sinclair. The fact that Johnny Hayes is out, and that was pretty sad. It was a fairly hard tackle. It was one of those ones that looked kind of, it was 50-50. The ball was there to be won. You can't really blame the guy, but to have your leg broken and just when you're starting to establish yourself in the team. So anyway, I think with Hayes out, I reckon Sinclair will drop in that. But the McGregor versus Stuart Armstrong kind of one, that's a tricky one. I know both players are really, really good players. I don't know, there's something about McGregor. He does give the ball away a hell of a lot. But at the same time, Armstrong's just not firing all cylinders at the moment, so there's merits for both of them being in the team. I reckon Cham and Brown they'll probably keep their spots, I would think, because they've been doing okay in the past few weeks. But I think the decisions have to be made about Dembele versus Griffiths or McGregor versus Armstrong. Depends kind of what way they go. Armstrong did okay a few weeks ago when he came on. He got a game. He was kind of in players' faces and stuff like that, and quite active, pushing forward and stuff like that. So, but I reckon he'll start with McGregor. I reckon that's what he'll prefer to do. He'll stick him just in front of the midfield. It'll be Sinclair, Forrest, Cham, Brown. Then Tierney left back, Gordon, and then probably Ayer, Boyata, and Lustig again. So I think the defence kind of is picking itself at the moment. I think Cham and Brown are kind of picking themselves, but I can't really see who else. I mean, if Sinclair didn't play, I'm not sure who else you'd play. You wouldn't play Mikey Johnson from the start anyway, that kind of thing. I think he's one of those guys that would come on. Obviously no Paddy Roberts, so I think we're kind of, I don't know, for me it's kind of, the team kind of almost picks itself at the moment, maybe apart from McGregor, Armstrong. There's merits for both. What do you guys reckon?
I think Sinclair has to play because apart from anything else, he's always good against them. He's got a particularly good, not just goals, but a good record of performance against Rangers. He always seems to bring his A game to those games,
Well, one of his big strengths is obviously his speed, and again, from what I saw the past couple of games, they are incredibly slow at the back. And so I can't see it. If you put Forrest in one wing and Sinclair in another, and either McGregor or Armstrong in the middle, I don't know. I just can't see how they can keep those kind of attack-minded players out for a whole 90 minutes. But yeah, fingers crossed that's where it goes. But I reckon he'll play McGregor. I would play Dembele. I think he's just an absolute class act. Not to say that Griffiths isn't a good player, but I just reckon you play the best ones there. The thing for me, it might go against him is the fact he hasn't started many games recently. Obviously Griffiths got the shout the past couple of games or so. So be interesting though.
Yeah, I just think Griffiths just seems to really revel in playing against the Huns. So I just think he should get the shout. I think but like you say, it's in either case, there's going to be goals. So
yeah. So it's definitely not going to be a nothing each draw. It's absolutely
no, definitely not. Right. Well, I think in that case, guys, is there anything else you want to add before we round things up?
No, I just enjoyed the game. And certainly at the Supporters Club, we should have a big night here in Melbourne. So sold out capacity attendance at the pub. Obviously DJ Pat putting in a bit of a stint as well. So it will be looking forward to it. Really looking forward to it.
Who's that, Pat? Pat who? Was that me? Am I doing music? Oh shit.
If you fancy it.
Actually, no. We found out there's somebody. I don't even know the guy's name. Colin didn't tell us, but there's a chap who normally does some singing and stuff like that before games down the Gallagate. He's out in Melbourne on holiday, so whoever you are, don't know who you are, but anyway, he's going to entertain the crowd for a little while. But I'll fill in the blanks with a few tunes. No hassle there, but yeah, as Paul said, it sold out probably. I don't know, middle of last week or something like that. No, it was early this week, wasn't it? So the fact that there's that many people there is a kind of smaller venue from what we've had the past couple of years, but I'm sure it'll be absolutely jumping. As I missed the last game up there due to a family function, so I'm kind of looking forward to see what it's like and soak that atmosphere up. So should be good. Party one after it as well, by the sounds of it.
Aye.
But yeah, I think supporters clubs, all around Australia. So there's a few guys from Melbourne up in Sydney because it's obviously holiday time here and people go up for New Year celebrations up in Sydney. So a few of our guys are up there. There's a few coming down from Sydney to here. I saw some guys from Melbourne over in Adelaide posting their forum as well. So Adelaide CSC is actually Brian McAvoy. I'm sure a few people listening to this would know Brian McAvoy in Sydney. Well, he's flying 4 hours from Sydney, or 4.5 hours from Sydney, to Perth to watch the game with the Perth CSC, and then fly back right after it to come back for the New Year celebrations in Sydney. So he's literally flying a continent to watch the game and then flying back again. Isn't that
is dedication
nuts?
Right there.
Oh, that's nuts. I mean, Perth guys are brilliant. It'd be an absolute riot over there. I think the guys from Manger, might be going up to join them as well. I'm not too sure, but yeah, so basically everywhere. Manger, then the guys up on the Gold Coast as well. That's a relatively new CSC up on the Gold Coast. Brisbane are showing the game, so yeah, everyone's kind of out in force. Jockstein CSC here in Melbourne will be doing the same thing, so it's good. Raise a bit of money for charity and have a bit of a sing-song. Meet up with your mates this time of year. It's good. Can't wait.
Aye.
Roll on tomorrow.
So, Paul, anybody you want to give a shout out to, or?
No, not really. I think I say just all the members that are coming to the Jockstein tomorrow. A big, I hope they have had a great Christmas and up for a new year. We've got quite a few. I've got a few of the boys coming from Mornington, from the Social Celts. They're coming up as well, and we've been down there twice this year. It's only an hour and a half bus drive. We've had two really, really good nights down there, and just growing the network. I might just mention that I think there's going to be a charity game in Geelong on the 10th of March next year. We're hoping to get supporters from all over Melbourne or Victoria that want to come down. That's for a Celtic supporter down there. They're doing a big charity event. They're actually going to have a Celtic v Rangers game and then a trivia night, and I think an auction, etc. Hopefully we'll have more information as it comes, but it's just a really good idea. That's the Celtic Rangers game that Saturday as well, if I remember correctly. So that will be a really good event for us. We'll go down there, get the bus, enjoy the charity activities, get the bus, come back, watch the game. That will hopefully be something to look forward to in the new year.
Excellent. Well, guys, if you'll indulge me for a wee minute, I just want to go a wee bit serious for a second here. Now, we've all had a right good laugh at Rangers and their troubles in the last 5 years. But there was one character who sadly left us recently. Gentleman by the name of George Barnett, who made a quite famous proclamation about how his big house must stay open. Sadly passed away earlier this month. Now, the guy gave us a right good laugh at the time, but loved his team, and in one way that their house did stay open. So never nice to lose a loved one before Christmas. So all the best to George's family, and God rest him, George Barnett, the big house gentleman.
Good call.
Yeah. So up in Osaka here, not much going on. We're just going to watch the game tomorrow night with a few of my friends and my lovely lady, who has never experienced the atmosphere of a Celtic Rangers game before. So it'll be interesting to see how she handles that. But so just the usual up here. I am now looking for a new job from March. If anybody knows anyone in Japan or in Osaka who needs an English teacher or a writer and isn't going to be a backstabbing prick like my current boss, please go. So that's all there is at this end.
Just say what you feel, Liam. Just say what you feel. I mean, come on, get it out.
Oh well, it is what it is. But I hope our next shite is a hedgehog. But anyway.
Yep. Just a couple of quick shout-outs. Shout-outs. Thanks to Tony Cassidy for retweeting as well, Tony. He's listening in. Always good supporter of the podcast as well. Now, I don't know the guy's name, but on Twitter, the name is NHIE, I guess, NHIE247. And right. We were actually meant to have a podcast start early this morning, and I foolishly tweeted that out, but then I was horribly let down by, anyway, I'm not naming names, Paul, Kev, sorry, and he did write to us on Twitter and said, "Going to hurry up, guys, he needs some running material." So I apologise. I hope he's not still running, because that was like 12 hours ago. So, and maybe he found something else. Maybe he could have listened to the Super Scoreboard phone in or something instead of us babbling on as well. So thanks, Tony. Thanks to Nihi247. The We're Laughing retweeted for us before. James Wallace retweeted. The Myrtle Beach Boys, they tweeted. Smell the Glove. Brian Murray, so there's a whole Danny Doherty, CSC. That's a new one up in the Sunshine Coast, I think. Paul, was it? Do you remember? The Danny Doherty CSC, I think it's up in the Sunshine Coast.
I think it is, yes.
And 6'2 Kangaroo. Look, I still don't know who 6'2 Kangaroo is. He keeps retweeting our stuff as well, so I apologise who you are. But anyway, and in the chat room, I do apologise, there's some more in there as well. Toby Jug was in there, Myrtle Beach Boys, and who was that earlier on? Alex Birrell was messaging us before as well. So, and yeah, that's it. Just thanks for people for listening in, and yeah, hopefully it won't be 3 months between now and the next one. Apart from that,
My prediction comes in, dare I say, we'll be having a good wee gloat in the next week or two.
if we win 7-0, we'll do a podcast at the weekend, 2 days after or something, because we'll probably be just about sobered up by then. So yes, that's. Plus, I'll be spending our winnings. Oh no, charity! Damn, it's for charity. That's right. Never mind. But anyway, yeah.
Well, I mean, is your beer fund registered as an official charity, Pat? You know, you could always just do the paperwork.
Yeah. I could try and make some beer for you, but yeah, wouldn't get down very well. But anyway, we'll see how we go with that one.
Oh well. Right, okay, gentlemen. On that note, then I guess we'll call time for today. So everybody, thanks for listening, and if you go to the game tomorrow, be safe and enjoy the game, and hopefully you'll be celebrating a 7-0. So see you again soon, guys. All the best.
All
Go
right.
well.
To Kevin Neal, you're still a pussy. All right, catch, guys.
See you later. Thanks.